There's the first layer of cloth being formed. The shed is open. We've got the shuttle in place. I'm pulling on that string heddle. There is the sword, and clear up there is good old Bob sitting in the corner. I am trying to figure out how to weave, and one of the coolest technologies for weaving is the Backstrap Loom. This thing has appeared in cultures all over the world, and basically I am the loom. By leaning back, I increase the tension. By leaning forward, I decrease the tension. I just need a tree or a conveniently placed chainmail stand, and then I've got the second half of the loom, and then it's the string itself that forms the basis. So it's stick here, stick there, a strap that I hold around my hips, and then it's something to hold this open with, so kind of a flat, wide stick, and then another stick here, and then you're set. This is insanely cool. Eventually, my plan is to post a build series on how to do this, but right now I'm just experimenting with store-bought yarn before I eventually move into making a shirt from scratch with yarn that I've spun myself. I want to get this step right, and so that means prototyping. So weaving, right? You're going over and under and over and under and over and under. That process is pretty simple. But if you're doing that by hand for every single row, that is the most horribly tedious thing that I think I can imagine. So what we've done is we've cheated. We've gone over, under, over, under, over, under, and selected all those threads, so they're held separately in these little string loops. And whenever I want to see that over, under scheme, I pull, and this opens what's called a shed in weaving, and I check to make sure that all the threads have dropped that are supposed to drop. And then I just pass the thread underneath this shed, and we've got ourselves the next layer. And for the other half, what we do is have this stick wedged between half of them, and when I want that shed, I just turn this sideways and kind of comb it like this, and then I've got the other half of the threads over, under, over, under. So then I just pass this through, like so. And then to keep everything even, what an official big loom will use is called a reed. And in Mayan textiles, they'll actually use a stick like this one, called a sword, to beat them in place. But I use a fork. I find this to be a really, really convenient way to just kind of whap the string into place. And that makes it exactly the way it needs to be. And I can kind of control the tension by pulling on the string as I whap it until it makes a straight line. And then I'm ready for the next shed. And that is weaving on a DIY backstrap loom in a nutshell. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a full tutorial on how to build one of these. And this is the fabled backstrap, with which I control the tension of the loom. This thing is really cool. I have plans to make another table loom using my 3D printer, and that'll be cool too, but the nice thing about this one is it requires basically nothing. You can make this with Stone Age tools really easily. Find straight sticks, shave them with a rock, you're there, as long as you have something to make string out of. Oh, don't run away from me. Here we go. Come on. If you do just a plain over, under weave with no frills, it's called plain weave. There are ways of making that significantly more complicated. And then a balanced weave shows both the warp, which is the long strands that are under tension, with the weft, which is the ones that go back and forth evenly. So if you see a checkerboard pattern on the thread level, it's a balanced plain weave. And that is exactly what I'm going for, just simple cloth. Later I might get fancy with it, but at the moment I am perfectly pleased to just have cloth made from scratch.
The gray and red looks really nice.
Thank you. Funny enough, there's actually a connection between the clever ways people have come up with to make patterns that are easier to do rather than individually choosing threads one at a time, and computer programming. In the 1700s, there was a brilliant guy who invented a type of loom that read punch cards, just like computers from like the 1950s. And these punch cards would have a weaving pattern, and then needles against those cards would read when a hole passed on the card, and then it would either raise or drop a string based on that punch card. And so the punch cards and the idea of reading those using a mechanical device in order to have an input and an output, I mean, the seeds of a computer were right there. And so you can kind of look at weaving as the beginning thread in the history of computing. So that's kind of cool. Right now I'm taking a lot of time passing my little shuttle through. One of the major inventions that totally changed the way that weaving was done was called a flying shuttle, where it would just go back and forth automatically. And when that happened, weaving was suddenly automatable. And so I think making a flying shuttle is definitely on the list of projects we're going to need to do for Good and Basic. That might be a bit down the road, though. I mean, I'm currently using a backstrap loom. Making a bunch of bespoke pieces, it's different. The standing desk model of Backstrap Loom is awesome. Incidentally, I am weaving with a gray warp and a red weft, and one of the reasons for doing two different colors is so that I can actually see how well I'm controlling the width. There's basically three types of weaving. There's a balanced weave where you see both the warp threads, these gray ones, and the weft threads, these red ones, in the face. If you kind of increase the tension and kind of squish it like this, the only threads you actually see are the warp threads, and it's called a warp-faced weave. Things like the strap that you carry your laptop with are made with a warp-faced weave. By contrast, a weft-faced weave is the way that I make slingshots. I'll show you that in a later video. But as I work on this, I'm going to unroll this for a moment. Sorry about that. I'm going to unroll this, and you can see that I have not done a super good job here at the beginning. I mean, here you see a lot of red. That is a weft-faced weave. And right here you see a patch of gray. That is a warp-faced weave. That means that I need to adjust the tension back and forth to get it more even. And I'm doing pretty good up here. It's a little bit weft-faced here, but that's mostly okay. And so that's a trick. As you're learning, using two different colors lets you know if you're getting even tension. Then I have a pencil here. I'm going to roll up the woven cloth with. Dun, 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 dun. And then I take this loop, put it there and there respectively, and the pencil will stop it from going the whole 9 yards. If only there were 9 yards to go. Alrighty, I'm going to roll this up and call it a night. If you're interested in more videos that we have done about making string and doing stuff with textiles, we've got a whole playlist, and I'll link that right here. And a good place to start is making string from dogbane, and I'll leave a link for that one right here as well. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
So, when you make a shirt from scratch, will we have to have a sheep for you to shear it from, or can it be a llama?
Llama would be good. I like
Does
llama.
it have to be like wool that we own, or can you purchase raw wool for some more?
I have purchased 45 pounds of raw wool that's currently sitting in my shed, and that is what I am planning to use. So, I didn't shear it. I'm cheating. I'm totally okay with that.